The most important investment you can make is in your own knowledge. When you understand money, you master it. Wealth is built not by chance, but by a commitment to manage and grow your resources every single day. Success with money isn't a matter of luck. It's a matter of discipline and the willingness to learn every single day. What if you could start following the same money rules that helped me build wealth, no matter how old you are? What if you could change the way you think about money and completely transform your financial future? Imagine having control over your money instead of feeling like it controls you. What if you could make smarter choices every day, not based on impulse but on purpose and strategy? What if I told you that the decisions you make right now can set you on a path to success that will last a lifetime? The rules I'm about to share with you aren't some get-rich-quick scheme. They're the principles I've followed for years. They're simple but powerful, and they work for anyone at any stage of life. Whether you're just starting out or looking to get back on track, these rules can make a real difference. So if you're ready to take control of your money, make decisions that lead to lasting wealth, and learn the rules that help me build financial freedom, then completely commit to changing your financial mindset today. Now let's dive in. Number 1. Take full control of your money with daily discipline. You will never build wealth until you decide to take full control of your money. That's the starting point. Not when you earn more. Not when you get lucky. Not when someone comes to save you. It starts when you look at your current situation and say, "This is my responsibility." That's what I did. I didn't wait to be rich to get disciplined. I got disciplined, and then wealth followed. Every dollar you earn is a test. It asks you, are you ready for more? If you can't manage what you have now, more money won't solve your problems. It will just multiply them. Discipline is the bridge between what you have and what you want. If you want to grow financially, the first habit you must develop is daily control. Not once a month, not once a year. Daily. That means knowing where your money is going, what it's doing, and why. When I was broke, I started with just a little notebook. I wrote down every single expense. Coffee, rent, food. I didn't judge myself. I just recorded it. And by doing that, I became more aware. Awareness is the beginning of discipline. You can't fix what you don't see. Most people live by impulse. They feel something, and they get a paycheck, and it disappears. They don't stop to think. They don't ask, does this align with my goals? Is this helping or hurting me? Taking control means you stop giving power to emotion and start giving power to intention. You decide how your money works. You decide what gets your attention. You decide what matters most. You don't need to be rich to be in control. You need to be honest. You need to face yourself. You need to tell the truth about your habits, your patterns, your excuses. If you're constantly saying you don't have enough, that's not a money issue. It's a discipline issue. Because the truth is, most people have enough to start. They just don't control what they already have. They waste it. They ignore it. They hope it'll somehow work out. But hope is not a strategy. Discipline is. When I was young, I thought wealth came from big breaks. But that's not how it works. Wealth comes from small habits practiced daily, controlling your spending, saving what you can, investing when you're ready, reviewing your finances regularly, and doing it not when it's convenient, but when it's necessary every day. Daily discipline doesn't mean you become a miser. It means you become intentional. It means you give your money direction. You stop drifting and start designing. I learned that discipline gives you freedom. People think it's the opposite. They think control means restriction. But when you're in control, you're not reacting to life. You're leading it. You're not afraid to check your bank account. You're not confused about your goals. You know what's coming in and what's going out. You make choices that align with your future. That's freedom. That's power. And it begins with something as simple as writing things down and reviewing them every day. You see, the world doesn't reward chaos. It rewards clarity. If your financial life is unclear, unstable, or undefined, it won't grow. You grow what you focus on. So focus on it. Sit down and build a system. Make a budget that fits your values. Decide how much you'll save each month. Set rules for yourself. Rules you follow even when no one is watching. Because that's real discipline. Doing the right thing consistently without needing applause. Discipline is not a one-time decision. It's a daily commitment. Every morning you wake up and ask, am I in control or am I letting life control me? Every purchase is a choice. Every delay is a message to your future self. Are you building something or just surviving? When I started treating every dollar with respect, everything changed. Not because the money was big, but because the mindset was. That shift, that decision to lead my financial life, instead of letting it lead me, that was the beginning of wealth. When people ask me how I became wealthy, I don't say it was talent or luck or timing. I tell them it was daily control. I knew what I wanted and I acted like it. I cut back where I had to. I delayed pleasure when needed. I invested in what mattered. And I stayed consistent. Because success doesn't visit those who dabble, it visits those who discipline. Not once in a while. Every day. Take a look at your life right now. How much of it is controlled by your habits? By your patterns? By what you avoid? You can turn it around. Not by doing everything at once, but by doing the right thing every day. Track your spending. Plan your week. Choose purpose over impulse. That's how you build confidence. That's how you create peace of mind. That's how you stop surviving and start growing. And you don't have to wait for the perfect moment. Start now. Start today. Start with whatever you have. You can begin small. That's how I did it. I didn't have a lot, but I had enough to start practicing. And once I became the kind of person who could manage small amounts, I became the kind of person who could handle more. Life responds to discipline. Opportunity follows order. But it all begins with one decision. Take full control of your money with daily discipline. No one will do this for you. No one is coming to save your future. It's your responsibility. And that's not a burden. That's a gift. Because if it's up to you, then you can change it. If you're in charge, then you can improve it. And once you decide to take control, things begin to shift. You stop being a victim of your circumstances. You start becoming the architect of your life. Wealth is not about how much you make. It's about how well you manage. And that starts with how you manage today. Not tomorrow. Not next month. Today. Because if you can control one day, you can control the next. And soon enough, you've built a life of stability, progress, and strength. You'll look back one day and realize the turning point wasn't some big event. It was the moment you chose daily discipline over daily drift. That's when everything started to change. That's when you started building a future you could be proud of. That's when you became someone who didn't wait for wealth but created it. Number 2. Pay yourself first before you pay anyone or anything. The moment I understood this principle, my entire financial life began to shift. Paying yourself first is not just about money. It's about identity. It's a declaration that your future matters, that your goals are not an afterthought, that you are not at the mercy of your bills, your obligations, or the demands of the world. Most people work hard every day, and by the end of the month, they have nothing left. Not because they didn't earn enough, but because they paid everyone else first and forgot themselves. That cycle keeps people stuck and defeated, no matter how much they make. When I was struggling financially, I realized something painful. I was giving all of my energy to others and leaving none for my own growth. Every paycheck was gone before I even had a moment to think. Rent, utilities, groceries, taxes, and by the time I got to me, there was nothing left. I didn't understand that wealth isn't about what you make, it's about what you keep. And the only way to keep is to put yourself first before the rest of the world takes their share. This is not a selfish act. It's a disciplined act. It's the practice of telling yourself you matter, your savings matter, your security matters, your goals matter. When you pay yourself first, you are building the habit of valuing your own life. You're creating a future with choices instead of living in fear of emergencies. Most people think saving comes last. I learned that saving must come first, before rent, before anything. Because if you don't make it a priority, nothing will ever change. Paying yourself first is simple but not easy. It requires a mental shift. It means setting aside a portion of your income the moment it arrives, automatically, without debate, without waiting to see what's left. You decide in advance. Maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 5%. It doesn't matter how much at the start. What matters is the act, the message it sends to your subconscious, that your future matters enough to be first in line. There were months I felt tight, times when it would have been easier to skip it, but I stayed consistent, because I knew the moment I stopped prioritizing my future, I would go back to living on edge. That's not a life of power. That's a life of reaction. I didn't want to keep borrowing from tomorrow to survive today. So I made a rule, and I followed it. Before any money left my hands, a portion of it went to me. It wasn't just about a savings account. It was about building a system I could trust, a habit that didn't depend on willpower. I automated it. The moment income came in, it moved to my savings without me touching it. That automation wasn't just for convenience, it was for consistency. Because when you rely on emotion, you'll make excuses. But when you create structure, you build character. And that's what paying yourself first builds. It builds the muscle of consistency, the habit of self-respect. Most people live paycheck to paycheck because they've never been taught to prioritize themselves. They've been taught to survive. They pay bills first because they're afraid. They spend on comfort because they're exhausted. But real comfort comes from security, from knowing you're not one emergency away from collapse, from waking up and knowing you have something set aside. That kind of peace doesn't come from luck. It comes from daily decisions, quiet actions repeated over time. There's a reason most wealthy people follow this rule. It's not because they have more money. It's because they understand money. They understand human behavior. They know the demands of life will always expand to consume every dollar. Unless you decide in advance to protect your portion, life won't leave you extra. You have to take it. And you do that by deciding ahead of time who comes first. It was uncomfortable at first. It felt strange to put money aside when there were still bills to pay. But I reminded myself of this every day. The person I'm becoming deserves this discipline. The life I want to build requires this sacrifice. Every time I paid myself first, I felt stronger. Not because of the amount, but because of the decision. That decision changed how I saw myself. I wasn't someone who lived in lack. I was someone who built wealth from the inside out. You don't need to wait until you make more. That's the mistake people make. They say I'll start saving when I earn more. But when more comes, so do more expenses. If you don't build the habit now, it won't be there later. You don't rise to the level of your income. You fall to the level of your habits. And this is one of the most powerful habits you can build, because it teaches you that you are not a slave to your circumstances. You are the one in control. Even in your lowest seasons, you can start. $1, $2. What matters is that you start, that you send the signal to yourself that you won't neglect your future any longer. You are no longer waiting for permission. You are no longer hoping something will change. You are making the change. And that shift will show up not just in your bank account, but in how you walk, how you speak, and how you live. Paying yourself first is a quiet act of strength. It doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't impress others, but it sets you apart. Because while others are spending without thought, you are building something real. While others are hoping for a raise, you are creating financial stability. While others are consumed by stress, you are guided by structure. That difference is everything. I used to think I had to choose between survival and growth. But the truth is, growth creates security, and paying yourself first is the foundation of that growth. It's a reminder every day that you are planning ahead, that you are not reacting, you are leading. That's how confidence is built. Not from luck, not from praise, but from private decisions repeated daily. This rule changed my financial destiny, not because it gave me more money instantly, but because it made me a different person. A person who no longer saw saving as optional. A person who refused to put themselves last. A person who could look their future in the eye and say, "I've got you." That's the real wealth. Not just what you own, but who you become. And it all begins when you decide to pay yourself first, before you pay anyone or anything. Number 3. Learn how money works and never stop learning daily. The day I made the decision to understand money was the day my life started to change. Not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I had to admit, I didn't know enough. I had to drop my pride. I had to look around and realize that most people weren't taught how money really works. We were taught how to earn it and how to spend it, but not how to manage it, grow it, or protect it. And yet we spend our whole lives dealing with it. That didn't make sense to me. I knew if I was going to change my future, I had to become a student of money. Every single day, understanding money isn't about reading a textbook once or listening to a speaker once. It's about making it your personal responsibility to learn something new daily. I didn't wait for someone to teach me. I picked up books. I listened to the ones who were doing well. I asked questions. I paid attention. I studied my own behavior. I tracked what I did with every dollar. I wanted to know why I made certain choices, why I avoided certain topics, why I felt fear around finances. Because until I understood those things, I couldn't grow. I found that the people who struggled most with money were the ones who avoided it. They were afraid to face it. They didn't want to look at their statements. They didn't want to talk about saving, or debt, or interest. And what you avoid controls you. I had to face it all. I had to become curious. Why do prices go up? How does investing really work? What's the truth about taxes and inflation? What makes people wealthy, and what keeps others poor? These were the questions I asked daily. Not once in a while, every day. There's a reason the wealthy keep learning. It's not because they have to. It's because they know the rules change. What worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. They stay ahead by staying informed. They don't just rely on others to manage their money. They take time to understand the systems. They don't hand over their future blindly. They study it. They stay in the habit of learning. I realized I had to do the same even if I didn't have much yet. It's not about becoming an expert overnight. It's about becoming aware. Knowing how compound interest works. Knowing how debt traps people. Knowing the difference between assets and liabilities. These things are simple, but they are not taught in school. And if you don't teach yourself, you'll stay stuck. I saw that knowledge was leverage. It gave me an advantage. It helped me make better decisions. It gave me confidence. Not because I had all the answers, but because I was asking better questions. When you study money daily, you stop being intimidated by it. You stop feeling confused or overwhelmed. You begin to realize it's a tool, a resource, something you can master. And when you take control of it, you take control of your options. You gain choices. You open doors. You move from surviving to planning, from guessing to deciding. That's what knowledge does. It frees you from fear. I started keeping a journal just for financial thoughts. If I read a concept I didn't understand, I'd write it down and study it later. If I heard a strategy that made sense, I'd try to apply it in my own life. If I made a mistake, I'd reflect on it and learn. I didn't hide from failure. I used it as feedback. That practice of learning every single day became my secret weapon. Because the more I knew, the less I hesitated. The more I learned, the more I took action. People think you need to be rich to start learning about money. That's backward. You need to learn so you can become someone who can handle wealth. You don't rise to the level of your income. You rise to the level of your understanding. And if your understanding is limited, your results will be limited, no matter how much you earn. I committed to increasing that understanding one step at a time. I learned that every financial decision has consequences. Some build your future, and some tear it down. But if you don't know how to measure those consequences, you're gambling with your life. I didn't want to live like that. I wanted to know the impact of my choices. I wanted to understand risk and reward. I wanted to know where my money was going, and why. And that clarity only came through learning. Real focused daily learning. When you treat money like a skill instead of a mystery, you change your mindset. You stop blaming and start building. You stop hoping and start preparing. You stop following the crowd and start thinking for yourself. I didn't just copy what others did. I asked if it aligned with my goals. I thought for myself. And that came from learning. Not once, but every day. Most people say they don't have time to study money, but they spend hours scrolling through distractions. I used to waste time like that too. until I realized my future was being stolen by my habits. I decided to trade some of that time for growth. 15 minutes a day. That was enough to read something helpful, listen to something useful, review something important. It wasn't about volume. It was about consistency. And that consistency paid off. The more I learned, the more I respected what I had. I started seeing money as a responsibility, not just a reward. I treated it with care. I made choices that protected it. And I did it not because I was scared, but because I was informed. That's the kind of power learning gives you. Quiet, unshakable power. It doesn't shout, but it shows up in your results, in your decisions, in the way you carry yourself. Even now, after all the success I've had, I still study money, because I know there's always more to learn. The world changes. Markets shift. New tools emerge. And if you stop learning, you fall behind. Not because others are smarter, but because you stopped growing. I didn't want that to be my story. I wanted to be sharp, prepared. That's why I made learning a non-negotiable part of my life. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can begin today, right where you are. All it takes is the decision to start paying attention, to stop running from the subject, and start leaning into it. Read one page, ask one question, study one principle, then repeat that process daily. That habit will separate you from the average. It will build your confidence, and it will prepare you to handle more when more comes. Number 4. Choose long-term stability over short-term satisfaction. Always. The hardest part of building wealth is learning to wait. Not because you don't want more in life, but because everything around you is designed to tempt you into spending before you think. I had to train myself to value what lasts more than what feels good for a moment. I saw people spending money to feel better for a day and ending up broke for years. And I realized that a stable life is built on choices that don't always feel exciting at first, but always pay off later. There was a time I wanted things I couldn't afford. I wanted the nice car. I wanted the new clothes. I wanted to eat out without thinking. But every time I gave in to those urges, I set my future back. I felt good for an hour but anxious for a week, and I got tired of that cycle. I started asking myself one question before every financial decision. Will this help me stay strong 10 years from now? If the answer was no, I passed on it. It wasn't easy at first. But with practice, that question became automatic. People chase short-term satisfaction because they confuse comfort with freedom. Buying something right now feels like control, but real control is having money when you need it most. Real control is not being afraid of the future. That kind of freedom only comes when you consistently say no to what doesn't serve your long-term stability. I had to shift my mindset from what do I want now to what do I want to live without regret later. Choosing long-term stability meant changing how I lived every day. I created a plan. I stuck to a budget. I told myself no when it made sense. I stopped trying to keep up with people who weren't thinking about their future. I wasn't trying to impress anyone anymore. I was trying to build something solid, something no one could take from me. I didn't care if it looked boring. I cared if it lasted. That's how you win. I learned to find satisfaction in progress, not in purchases. I started measuring success by how consistent I was with saving and how clear I was with my goals. I got serious about setting priorities. I didn't touch money set aside for the future. No matter what, I built emergency savings not just to feel safe, but to prove to myself that I could stay committed. That commitment gave me confidence. It gave me peace. It helped me sleep better at night. Discipline is not about punishment. It's about power. It's about looking at your life and deciding that the future version of you deserves something better. When you choose long-term stability, you are showing respect to your future self. You are saying, I care about your peace, your strength, your options. That kind of thinking shifts everything. You stop making emotional decisions and start making strategic ones. You stop rushing and start building. There were times people questioned my choices. They asked why I didn't upgrade my lifestyle when I started earning more. They thought I was being cheap. But I wasn't interested in looking rich. I was interested in being free. I didn't want more things. I wanted more time. I wanted more flexibility. I wanted to wake up without pressure. And that kind of life doesn't come from chasing satisfaction. It comes from building stability. The truth is, most people don't plan to fail with money. They just never decide what matters more. The feeling right now or the future they say they want. I decided. I chose the future. I knew that if I wanted to travel later, retire early, help my family and stay calm when the unexpected happened, I had to give up some temporary pleasures. That wasn't always fun, but it was always worth it. Every time I said no to an unnecessary expense, I was saying yes to a more powerful life. Long-term stability meant investing in things I couldn't see right away. It meant putting money into assets instead of entertainment. It meant learning before spending. It meant thinking ahead while others were distracted. It meant building habits that made wealth automatic, not accidental. I studied my patterns. I broke the ones that kept me stuck. I chose purpose over impulse. That discipline became my foundation. I started finding joy in watching my savings grow. I found pride in being consistent. I felt stronger every time I delayed gratification. That strength became part of who I was. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone anymore. I wasn't chasing likes or compliments. I was building a life that worked for me. A life with stability. A life I didn't have to escape from. There's something powerful about knowing you have enough because you planned for it. There's peace in knowing that you can handle a challenge without falling apart financially. That peace comes from small daily decisions, not big lucky moments. Every time I chose stability over satisfaction, I moved closer to that kind of peace. And once you taste that, you don't want to go back. I learned that the path to long-term wealth is not flashy. It's quiet. It's repetitive. It's made up of thousands of small responsible actions. You won't always get applause for it, but the results will speak for themselves. The moment you stop living for the next thrill and start living for long-term strength, you begin to transform. Your mindset grows. Your patience deepens. Your future becomes clearer. You don't need to be perfect to build stability. You need to be intentional. You need to wake up every day and remind yourself what matters most. You need to stop letting your emotions lead your spending. You need to stop thinking of discipline as a sacrifice and start seeing it as the path to power, because it is. Choosing stability means choosing to lead your life instead of reacting to it. People often say they want a better life, but their actions don't reflect it. They keep choosing what's easy now over what's better later. I didn't want to be one of those people. I wanted to be the kind of person who could be trusted with more, and to earn that trust, I had to stay consistent with the hard decisions. That's how you grow into someone who can handle success when it arrives. Every day I made decisions that favored the future. I bought only what I needed. I said no to unnecessary upgrades. I didn't chase every trend. I stopped comparing. I stayed focused. I made a plan and followed it even when it wasn't exciting. That's what it takes. Not big wins, but daily alignment with your bigger goals. Choosing long-term stability over short-term satisfaction doesn't mean you never enjoy life. It means you enjoy life on your terms, with less stress, with more control, with real choices. It's not about being restrictive. It's about being prepared. And when you're prepared, life feels lighter. You can breathe. You can move. You can grow. That kind of life is not handed to you. It's earned through daily discipline and intentional living.
Number 5. Work on your skills until your value keeps increasing. The secret to changing your financial life is becoming someone who brings more to the table than you did yesterday. I discovered early on that money doesn't chase people. It chases value. If you want to earn more, live better, and rise higher, you don't start by asking for more. You start by becoming more. I had to get real with myself. I had to stop hoping for opportunity and start preparing for it. And that preparation was all about building skills. Not just the ones I already had, but the ones I needed to rise to the next level. Every skill I ever learned added a brick to the foundation of my success. Not one was wasted. When I improved my communication, I started leading better. When I became more disciplined with time,
I became more productive. When I understood business better, I made wiser decisions. It all built up, skill by skill, day by day. There's something powerful about becoming more capable, because the world begins to respond to you differently. People notice, opportunities show up, and not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. I never waited for someone to give me permission to improve. I gave that permission to myself. I stopped making excuses about what I didn't know, and I started learning what I needed to know. Whether it was reading a book, listening to someone wiser, or practicing a task until it became second nature, I made sure every day included some kind of growth. It didn't have to be dramatic. It just had to be steady. That steady growth created momentum. And once you have momentum, things begin to shift. Your income is tied to your ability to solve problems. The more problems you can solve, the more value you bring. And the more value you bring, the more money you're worth. It's that simple. I had to stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like a builder. What could I build? What could I improve? What could I offer that most people couldn't? These were the questions that pushed me to raise my standards. There were times I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere fast enough. But I kept working on myself anyway. I focused on sharpening the tools I had while quietly collecting new ones. Over time, those tools opened doors that had been closed before. People began to call me, invite me, and pay me. Not because I asked, but because I had something they needed. That only happened because I made a decision to keep growing, even when no one was watching. If you want your income to grow, you have to grow. If you want better results, you have to become a better person. That's not about your worth as a human being. That's about your usefulness in the world of value exchange. I made sure I was always learning something. I didn't treat knowledge casually. I took it seriously. Every lesson was a seed, and over time those seeds turned into a harvest that changed my life. The world will reward you based on your ability to bring something meaningful to the table. You don't get paid just for showing up. You get paid for bringing results, and results come from skills. Whether it's learning how to negotiate, how to write, how to lead, how to sell, how to think clearly, or how to manage your energy. Every skill gives you an edge. I didn't just want to be busy. I wanted to be effective. And to be effective, I had to become sharper. There's no finish line to skill building. You don't master one thing and stop. You keep going. You stay curious. You look for areas where you can grow stronger. Every time I reached a new level of income, I asked myself, what's the next skill I need to develop? That question kept me humble. It kept me motivated. It reminded me that the journey wasn't about showing off. It was about showing up for my own potential. I never relied on talent. I relied on work. I wasn't the smartest person in every room, but I made sure I was the most committed to learning. That made the difference. It wasn't about what I had. It was about what I was willing to earn. That mindset gave me power. It gave me control. It helped me rise even when others were waiting for luck or hoping for shortcuts. Every time I improved a skill, I increased my options. That's what freedom looks like, having options. You don't have to take just any job. You don't have to settle for less. You can walk into situations with confidence because you've done the work. That kind of power isn't loud. It's steady. It's earned. It comes from repetition, practice, and real effort. One of the most important lessons I ever learned is that nobody can take away your skill. You can lose money. You can lose things. But you can't lose what you've built inside yourself. That's why I never stopped developing myself. I knew that my real wealth wasn't in the bank. It was in my mind, in my habits, and in my capabilities. That's where true security lives. People think success is about one big breakthrough. It's not. It's about consistent effort to improve who you are and what you can do. That's how you earn more. That's how you stand out. That's how you make a life you can be proud of. You become valuable by choosing growth every single day. Even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it's slow. Even when no one is clapping. You don't rise by chance. You rise by choice. Every book you read, every mistake you study, every mentor you listen to, every challenge you face, it all adds to your value. And when your value increases, your life expands. You start attracting opportunities you couldn't even see before. Not because you're lucky, but because you're ready. People will try to skip this step. They'll chase shortcuts. But shortcuts don't build character. Shortcuts don't create confidence. Real confidence comes from knowing you've built something inside yourself that no one can take. That's the reward of skill building. You stop feeling like a victim of your circumstances. You start feeling like the creator of your future. I made a habit of learning something every single day. I studied people who were better than me. I asked questions. I practiced when others relaxed. I sacrificed comfort for growth. And over time I became someone people could rely on. Someone they respected. Someone they paid well. That didn't happen overnight. It happened because I refused to stay the same. The question you need to ask yourself every day is simple. How can I improve? Not how can I impress people. Not how can I make quick money. But how can I become more useful, more skilled, more prepared? That question will guide you. It will protect you from distraction. It will focus your energy on what really matters. And over time it will make you wealthy, not just in money but in confidence, freedom and peace.
Number 6. Save money every month, no matter your current situation. I learned early that saving money is not a habit based on how much you earn. It's a habit based on how much you respect your future. You don't start saving when you have more. You start saving so you can eventually have more. No matter where you are in life, if you're not setting something aside, you're putting your future at risk. I was once broke, not just financially but mentally. I thought that once I earned more, then I'd start saving. But that day never came until I changed my thinking. The moment I decided to save no matter what, my relationship with money changed. I didn't wait for the perfect time or the perfect amount. I started with what I had, even if it was just a few dollars. I took it seriously. I treated every bit I saved as a message to my future self that I was building something. That small habit started creating a sense of control. When I saved consistently, I felt more grounded. I wasn't just reacting to life anymore. I was preparing for it. Most people spend first and try to save what's left. That's backward. I realized I needed to reverse that. I decided to save first and then spend what was left. That one decision forced me to be more careful with the rest of my money. It made me think more before I spent. It gave me a deeper appreciation for the value of each dollar. It wasn't about being tight. It was about being wise. I wasn't trying to punish myself. I was trying to protect my goals. When I was young, nobody taught me this. I had to learn it through struggle. There were times I thought I couldn't save anything, but I was wrong. I was spending on things that didn't matter. Small things, daily things, little expenses that added up to lost progress. I started tracking every dollar. I looked at my habits. I looked at what I could cut. Not because I was desperate, but because I was determined to change my future. Saving is more than just a financial practice. It's a mindset. It tells you that your future matters enough to prepare for it. That no matter what life throws at you, you're not empty-handed. You have a reserve, a cushion, a buffer between you and chaos. And that kind of peace of mind can't be bought later. It has to be built now, 1 month at a time. The amount doesn't matter at the start. What matters is the decision. If you save $5 or $500, you're telling yourself the same thing. I have a standard. I care enough about my future that I won't ignore it. That builds confidence. That builds momentum. You look at your account and know you made a wise choice. Even if it's small, you feel the strength of discipline. Saving money teaches you to think differently. You stop chasing the next thing. You start thinking about long-term results. You make choices not just for today, but for the months and years ahead. That kind of thinking changes your direction. You stop living week to week and start building month to month. You go from hoping to planning, from reacting to preparing. There's a trap people fall into. They say, once I make more, I'll start saving. But if you don't save when it's small, you won't save when it's big. The habit has to come before the increase. I had to train myself to think that way. I had to be firm about it. Even if my income was tight,
Even if my expenses were high, I had to find a way to save something. I made it non-negotiable. It wasn't easy at first. There were temptations to spend. There were excuses I could have made, but I held myself accountable. I reminded myself that people who respect money attract more of it, and saving is one of the highest forms of respect you can show. It says you're serious. It says you're planning. It says you're worthy of handling more. As time went on, the habit of saving gave me new options. I could invest. I could handle emergencies without panic. I could say no to things that didn't align with my values. I could wait for better opportunities. That power came from discipline, and that discipline came from the choice to save every single month. No matter what was going on, you don't need to impress anyone with your lifestyle. You need to impress yourself with your ability to be wise. That wisdom shows up in your decisions, in your patience, in your consistency. Most people spend years chasing more, but they never learn how to keep what they have. Saving teaches you how to keep, how to protect, how to grow what you've earned. You can't build wealth without learning how to save. You can make money, but it'll slip through your fingers. I had to stop leaking money through careless spending. I had to look at where it was going and ask myself if that was worth my future. Most of the time it wasn't. So I changed course. I made sacrifices, not because I had to, but because I chose to. People want a big return before they start, but real success starts with small, consistent steps. Saving each month is one of those steps. Over time, those steps lead to stability. They lead to confidence. They lead to options. Even if you start late, it's not too late. What matters is that you start, and you stay committed. Your current situation doesn't disqualify you from saving. It challenges you to become more aware, more creative, more determined. I've seen people with small incomes save consistently and change their lives. And I've seen people with large incomes spend everything and stay stuck. It's not about how much you make. It's about how much you keep. If you can save while you're struggling, you'll thrive when things improve. Because you've built the discipline. You've trained your mind to think about the future. That kind of thinking protects you from setbacks. It makes you resilient. You know you have a reserve. You're not shaken by every storm. That's the power of consistent saving. Every month is a new chance to prove to yourself that you're serious about your goals. When you save, you're not just putting away money. You're building habits. You're strengthening your mindset. You're laying a foundation for something greater. Don't wait for things to be perfect. Make the decision now. Take control now. Show your future self that you care, that you're responsible, that you're willing to prepare even when it's tough. This is what turns average into excellent. This is what separates people who talk from people who build. Saving is not just about money. It's about how much you value your life. If you truly value it, you'll take care of it. And saving is one of the best ways to do that. Start now. Stay consistent. Watch what happens.
Number 7. Use every dollar with purpose, direction, and total awareness. Every time you spend money, you're making a choice that either moves you closer to your goals or pulls you away from them. That's why I learned early on to treat every dollar like it matters, because it does. I'm not talking about being afraid to spend. I'm talking about being aware, knowing exactly where your money is going and why it's going there. That's how you take control. That's how you avoid the trap of drifting financially. It's not about how much you have. It's about how intentional you are with what you have. Most people don't think about their money until there's a problem. They wait until bills are stacked, debt is high, or something urgent happens. By then, the damage is already done. What I'm saying is, you have to stay awake when it comes to your money. Don't sleepwalk through your financial life. Don't guess where it went. Know it. Track it. Be precise with it. Awareness is power. And when it comes to money, that power can change your entire life. I started making progress financially when I stopped treating money like a mystery. I used to wonder where it all went at the end of the month. I'd look at my wallet and ask myself what happened. But that question wasn't going to help me. What helped me was sitting down with a piece of paper and writing out every single thing I spent money on. It was uncomfortable. It was eye-opening. And it was exactly what I needed to do. That exercise taught me something.
You can't manage what you don't understand. When you use money without purpose, you waste it. You let it slip through your hands with nothing to show for it. But when you assign every dollar a job, you take back control. You decide what your priorities are. You direct your money instead of letting it direct you. That kind of discipline doesn't just improve your finances, it improves your character. It sharpens your focus. It strengthens your decisions. You begin to think clearly about what truly matters and what doesn't. Purpose gives your money meaning. It turns random spending into intentional choices. I always ask myself before any purchase, is this helping me get where I want to go? If the answer was no, I passed on it. Not because I was being cheap, but because I had goals. I had direction. I wasn't trying to look successful. I was trying to become successful. And that required awareness. That required clarity. That required daily decisions that matched my vision. You don't need a complicated system to do this. You just need honesty. You need to be real with yourself about where your money is going and whether it's aligned with the future you want. It's not always easy. Sometimes you'll see habits you're not proud of, but that's okay. That's part of growth. That's part of stepping into a new level of responsibility. The person who avoids facing the truth about their spending will never change it. But the one who faces it can redirect their entire future. I've seen people earn a lot and still struggle. Not because they didn't have income, but because they didn't have intention. They spent without a plan. They lived without direction. And every month felt like starting over. On the other hand, I've seen people with modest income live with purpose and make real progress. They didn't guess where their money went. They told it where to go. That's the difference. That's the power of using every dollar with total awareness. You don't have to feel guilty about spending, but you should feel clear about it. You should know exactly why you're spending on something. Is it adding value? Is it bringing return? Is it helping you move forward? Those are the questions you need to ask. Because if your money isn't serving your goals, it's working against them. And over time, those choices add up. They either build your future or break it. Most people avoid budgeting because they think it limits them. But in truth, it frees them. It gives them control. It reduces stress. It creates peace of mind. When you know where every dollar is going, you stop living in fear. You stop worrying about the unknown. You make confident decisions because you've done the work. You've thought things through. You've planned. And that level of awareness builds trust in yourself. It builds belief. One of the greatest shifts in my life came when I realized I wasn't just spending money. I was trading my time, my energy, and my effort. Every dollar I earned took time from my life. It represented part of me. That's why I couldn't waste it. I had to respect it. I had to be careful with it. When you see money that way, you stop spending just to feel good. You start spending with a mission. You think twice. You act smarter. Financial peace doesn't come from luck. It comes from daily awareness, from consistent focus, from paying attention. That doesn't mean you never enjoy yourself. It means you do it with purpose. You plan for it. You stay in control. You decide ahead of time what matters most, and then you make sure your money reflects that. That's what separates those who build lasting wealth from those who constantly feel stuck. There's no shortcut to this. It's about doing the small things right every day, looking at your spending, making adjustments, learning where you can improve. That's how you grow. That's how you take control. Every dollar you spend is a decision. Make it count. Make it intentional. Make it something you're proud of. Because when your money is aligned with your goals, your whole life moves in the right direction. I didn't always get this right. I had to learn it over time. I had to break some habits. I had to stop lying to myself about what I could afford. I had to stop spending to escape problems and start using money to solve them. That required honesty. That required awareness. And that kind of awareness changed everything for me. It gave me clarity. It gave me strength. It gave me progress. You don't need more money to get started. You need more awareness. You need to look at what you already have and use it with purpose. You need to become the kind of person who makes every dollar work, who respects every penny, who plans with vision and follows through with discipline. That's who builds real wealth. That's who creates lasting change. And that's the person you're becoming with every intentional decision you make.